I really, really miss the good old Africa that I was raised in. The tiny footpaths taking me back to my mother's porridge in the evening. The smells of the bush, the sounds of the river, fireflies in the evening, smoke billowing from my grandmother's hut, and children running around, clothed in nothing but the love of God, running around laughing in mother tongue. Man, I miss the good old Africa. Unfortunately, today, most of the nations in Africa have largely been westernized to a great degree. The language, the political ideology, socioeconomic structures, education, everything that makes up a nation, even down to the popular culture, really is very reflective of Western culture, just on a low budget, as you can see in the video that I'm showing you right now. Now, this trend has really resulted in the rise of an army of Western influenced elites who continue to really colonize Africa, but just really on a low budget version. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my old neighborhood in Oyugis, a place where I spent almost 20 years of my life. I really don't like sharing stuff like this, especially things that show the less glamorous part of Africa. I don't particularly care for that. If at all, this will help avoid stereotypes. But in this case, I have to, because I want to share with you some really important things about where I was raised. So the neighborhood you're actually looking at is around a hospital called Matata, somewhere next to Agorosari High School. And this is a neighborhood that I spent many, many years of my life growing up in Oyugis. Now, this place was my home for approximately 20, 21 years or so. And we call it Oyugis. So welcome, folks. Welcome to the village. Today we are not in Karateng, but we are filming from Oyugis, almost in the middle of Oyugis. For those of you who know this place, it might look familiar. So as I walk you through this place, I will share my thoughts about how contact with the Western world has really changed who we are and the kind of Africa that we are passing on to the next generation. And I'm really sad to say that the transformation of this place I love dearly into a complete, total slum is complete. This place never used to look like this. Besides the shamba you're looking at, this place has changed incredibly in the last 20 years that I've been gone in diaspora. It used to be very nice, at least in our version at the time. We had running water. We had free open spaces, green spaces, mostly wild, not necessarily planned, but wild open spaces, lots of trees, lots of shambas, very little waste. You could hardly see plastic waste anywhere. And of course, we had just a few shops. So basically, what we had at the time is what I would call all the flavors of a decent small center in the 80s and the 90s. So back in the 80s and 90s, communities like the one that I'm showing you right now really taught us and exposed us to a number of things, including, number one, the fervent commitment to religion, at least the version that they gave us. The belief that one group was better than another. And so if you are Catholic, you are taught to believe you're better than everybody else. Same thing with SDAs and with other groups. Each group thought, and to some degree still think, they're better than the next. Of course, we were taught everything about the Africa's version of respect, like using titles when you're talking to adults, not looking at an adult straight in the eye, using polite language, helping, and just our version of respect. We spoke multiple languages. In fact, every single one I knew spoke at least 3 languages. Many folks spoke like 4 to 5 languages. We had all kinds of traditions which reflected a mix of Christian experiences and African ideals, where things like social hierarchies, elders on top, men, women, and all that stuff was really reinforced. And of course, you had certain things that were super African, like Nyawawa. And I don't know what Nyawawa is in English, but I suspect it's something to do with the spirits of the dead who would once in a while visit the neighborhood, and you'd have to send them off So we were taught all that. We had rituals around death. All of us had African names, even though again all of us had Western names. And the kinds of foods that we ate, I remember eating nyabende and jago. Everything we had mostly had soup in it. And nyabende, I've just been told, is lantana camara. And then anjago, I don't know what that is in English. The kinds of relationships we were taught. Now, before I forget, now this place you're looking at, this is where I was raised. This was probably the most prominent house in this corner here. Had a big barbed wire fence with lots of plants. This entire place had grass all over. There was not a single place with dirt as you see. But right now, it's just literally a complete slum. Yeah, all of this was just green grass, play area, proper toilet. All of that is gone. It's just something else. And of course, we were taught to connect with cousins. You had relatives from all over the place. We had a school system called 844, 8 years in school, I think grade school, 4 years in high school, 4 years in college. We had lots of African books. We put on uniforms. Of course, the political system we had was mostly a dictatorship, but as a kid, that really didn't matter. And the source of entertainment that we had, for the most part, if you're a child, outside was your best friend. You would go outside, make your toys, because we never had toys bought from the shop. They would buy them, nobody would buy them. So we would simply make our own toys, play, and then at best, you would have maybe radio. And then later on in life, TV came now as I was later in my teenage years. And I remember watching things like Escrava Isaura, wrestling, No One But You, Tahamaki Dunia Wiki, and things like that. And for the most part, we led a collective life where the group came first. And that's all we knew. Now, fast forward to America, so much of that has changed. Now, of course, our engagement with religion has changed a little bit. Many of us are not as fervently committed to religious ideals, especially those things that harm people anymore. Yes, we still engage with religion, but from a more, I would say, introspective way. Of course, we've maintained our version of respect. The languages are mostly gone. Very few of our kids speak our languages as we did growing up. Some of the traditions are no longer there. Christmas was a big deal. Christmas is not the same anymore. Instead, we have birthdays. Growing up, there's no day we ever celebrate a birthday. Because most of us, we didn't even know our own birthdays. We just had made-up days because nobody really knew exactly when you were born. And then, of course, we have things like Halloween, which never existed. Nyawawa, I believe, is largely gone. African names are rare. The foods we eat are, of course, very different. I remember growing up eating alwangni, which is some kind of honey that you dig underground. It's made by some really tiny fly, and the honey is very tasty. I don't see it anymore. We would eat ngwen, nyabende, and things like that. Again, I'm not sure how to translate those in English, but yeah, lots of those wild foods are not available anymore. Instead, we're eating a lot of processed food from the Western world. In terms of relationship, all the tightness we had growing up, most of it is gone. With cousins, a lot of the people have just simply inherited the problems that our parents had. And so people are beefing. We don't even see each other. Some homes are lucky cousins are still tight, but in many, many homes, cousins who've never fought maintain serious beef. And a lot of it is people inheriting problems that their parents or grandparents had. Something that would never happen when my grandfather was there. Because as you know, in many African households, the grandfather was the ultimate chief in control. And whenever they were there, everybody had to toe the line. As soon as those old folks died, everybody is now in their own corners. And so, and for those who don't know this, in my community, there is no word for nephew, uncle, niece, and all that stuff. In fact, the word uncle is only used to mean your mother's brother. But your father's brother is your father. So that's how tight our community was. Nowadays, most of that is gone. People just meet in funerals or whenever there are problems. We hardly visit relatives. Growing up, we would spend like the entire Christmas, everybody would go home, and it was fun. Most of that is gone. And then, of course, a lot of the cultures that we propagate now are largely Western. We try to minimize Africanness in every way, whether it's in curriculum, whether it's naming, what we do at home. because unfortunately, I would think because of colonialism, we are raised to believe that the more westernized you are, the better you are. I feel very sad about it, but I'm caught up in all of that. Who am I to say something? Of course, the political system is still largely the same. We have the children of the same dictators still running the show. In terms of entertainment, I think we've largely moved away from radio. The sports where we would play outside, some of that is there, some of that is not, but TV is also gone. So for the most part, it's replaced by things like YouTube and other online platforms. That old Africa is one that I will never forget. That old Africa brings fond memories. And so the loss of some of that makes me sad. The collective life, where the group came first, really, really was something. I truly miss old Africa. And by the way, that's my sister's shop. So if you want to buy girl stuff, hit me up.